Yeah, good morning, all. It's 6:27, and it's the morning session, and I'm trading the Nasdaq on micros. And uh, here we go. Currently underwater just a little bit. The market may come down to actually this area right here. So I'm going to hold off. It's pre-market, about a half an hour. So I have 11 micros on at this point here, and I have 5 micros on here, two different accounts. I see this on the 5 minute. We have a consolidation area here. Uh, So I actually expect the market to come back into this area right here. What I would do if I wasn't already in this trade is I'm actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy here again. So I'll put a order there,
Order submitted.
and on this one, put an order right here.
Order submitted.
We'll get back to break even.
Order filled.
We're trying to build up a little more of a distribution here, and the buyers are coming in. A little bit of weak spot right here. Feels like the market is starting to reach an exhaustion point. So that means that the bias could very well be to the downside here, or a very struggle, quite a struggle going to the upside. I'm going to stop the recording here, and then I'll catch back up once we either go positive or I've got to adjust.
Order submitted. Order filled. Order filled. Order submitted. Target filled. Order filled. Target filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. Order Target filled. Target filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Target filled. Order filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Target filled. Target filled.
This empty area here, they should, if they push into it, they probably will move across it fairly fast to this distribution area here.
Order filled.
About 15 minutes to the open, a little more. Very empty area right here. Sometimes it acts as resistance, but they could just punch right through it. A lot of times they'll bounce. I don't understand it, but they'll bounce off this low volume area. And they busted right through it. Damn the
Target
torpedoes!
filled.
Full speed ahead into the great beyond. Push it, boys. Bottom line, it says, am I positive? What the heck?
Order filled.
I'm going to close that one off.
Stop filled.
Okay, I'm flat. I'm going to wait for the open. I'll shut the whole thing down till the open. Recording. There it is. Okay.
never told Eve about the tree.
The reference point of a divergence forming or confirmation of a lower high, and the odds are starting to increase that we get a lower high now, because we're seeing a lot of the AI stocks and the tech stocks turning down with divergences, as I'll show you. Now, well, the Dow was flat and the S&P was down, NASDAQ was down. Transports were up, so was the New York Composite. The New York Composite was up, so again, I'll be watching. Does it rebound back up and get confirmation of a lower high or a divergence? We had a topping tail just over a week ago, expiration, and a topping tail in the form of a shooting star. That pattern has been confirmed, so any rebound back up, we might set up a lower high. But coming down towards these 20 periods on the New York Composite and the S&P, and below it on the Dow and the NASDAQ, so we'll be watching to see if we try to get some traction back up. That we have a bearish reversal of conditions, which I will be showing you. As the New York Composite had an up day, actually turned up on the McClellan Summation Index. So again, do we come back up here and validate a lower high or a divergence here? Again, not either way, but the odds are starting to increase that we get a lower high, because now we're seeing strength on the VIX weekly chart with the stochastic. Even though the S&P was down, the McClellan oscillator was up here. Again, there was no divergence here. There was a larger one here that formed, and again, still may form a divergence or confirmation of a lower high if we turn back up. So we'll be watching to see if we can try to get the traction back up with the divergences that you'll see later in the video. Can they produce a short-term reversal to give us some kind of bounce back up for a lower high or a divergence? Just quickly, I want to continue to point out S&P turned off of this trend line right here, the upper boundary of our rising wedge, and we saw our stochastic turn over at horizontal resistance levels and this rising resistance level. Remember, we got a bearish inside week on the S&P and NASDAQ last week, a bearish Harami pattern. I'll be watching to see by the end of the week, do we close down below this low? That's what I'm going to be watching, or confirm it the following week. But it is a bearish inside day. Does that mean this high holds right here at that trend line of resistance? You got a pretty good shot of that if you get confirmation of that two-week candle pattern. We had the same pattern on NASDAQ. Let me just bring it up close here. We had an inside week last week. We gapped lower and we traded within the previous week's body. That's an inside day or an inside week here in the weekly time frame. And it's what I'll be watching is if we don't get a bounce, or if we bounce and it fails, do we confirm this candle pattern this week or next week? Do we close below the previous week's low there just over 2 weeks ago? As we're hitting this high right here, we're hitting a major couple of trend lines on NASDAQ. Now here it is in the weekly time frame. Again, from the pandemic, before the pandemic sell-off, the highs before the pandemic, you take that trend line and you connect it to these lows, this low, the break right here, and then, for the high there, and then the high here. Well, we slammed right into it, and if you take these highs right here, it intersects with that trend line. And again, that's a parallel boundary with this lower boundary if we exclude the shadows. So you've got this really nice looking falling price channel, and you're hitting two very important trend lines. First one, this one right here, has acted as support and resistance now since 2020. And this one now that has marked the peak in late 2021. So again, we're turning off of those trend lines. So again, if we cannot make a new high, or we go lower and we get a rebound, or we get an immediate rebound, we'll be looking to see if we get a lower high and this trend line acts as resistance. So again, that's why I think there's a pretty good shot that with the options expiration, the highs that were in that day reaching extremes very well could have marked the top for NASDAQ and S&P 500. Please support the channel with the link directly below that allows us to be able to provide you this information. I do need your help in order to make it work, so please consider helping out today. The link directly below will take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation, but please consider helping out today. I do thank you for your consideration for that. Now, just quickly, the S&P got a bearish MACD crossover today, joining NASDAQ, which got it last week. The MACD rolled over today And again, we went lower. We're gravitating towards the 20 period here in the daily time frame. We'll see if, again, we attempt some kind of rebound back up. But again, I'm talking about since options expiration week there that, again, we may have peaked and get a post-Fed sell-off. We talked about that where you peak right after the Fed, which is what happened. Same exact thing happened in February. So again, we'll see if we get any kind of attempted rebound back up. The S&P has had a pretty good drop here. We're below the 10. We're just above the 20. Now you're getting the bearish MACD crossover today, which again is suggesting that we're going to see a bigger sell-off. Maybe we get a rebound back up for a lower high, possibly a divergence, but very good chance that the option expiration high there holds on S&P and NASDAQ. Then again, we'll be watching. Do we see the RSI drop down, towards the 50 level and the 20 period tested before we get a bounce? But you've got others like the Dow and the NASDAQ testing the 20 period right now. So we'll be watching to see if we attempt a bounce or not. NASDAQ broke that accelerated trend line, got the bearish MACD crossover last week. We're now testing the 20 period. If we keep going, you got this trend line down here. And again, you've got still possible head and shoulders if we get a bigger drop moving towards that trend line. So we'll be watching to see what happens. But if you can get some traction back up, we'll be watching the gap fills. Again, start taking out these 20 period moving averages. We're just kind of resting right underneath it now on NASDAQ, and Dow, the S&P is above it, so we'll be watching to see if we attempt to fill the gaps on the S&P. I'll talk about the gaps later in the video, them to you on the intraday chart. To show you the S&P is now joining NASDAQ and getting a bearish MACD crossover. The divergences on NASDAQ daily chart have played out. Money flow turned into negative territory. Do we end up turning back into positive territory and going back and trying to validate a lower high or go to lower levels and then get some kind of rebound? But again, at some point, you're likely going to try to set up a lower high.
Order submitted.
Have both the MACDs on NASDAQ and S&P with bearish crossovers in the daily time frame. Okay, NASDAQ dropping by 1% on Monday as we're seeing the leadership, the tech names now being dumped. We've seen it with AMD and Microsoft, and now we're seeing we got a bearish reversal of conditions with NVIDIA today. Other tech names under pressure. It's going to put pressure on the NASDAQ 100 going forward, although it can get a bounce before it gets a bigger drop to set up a lower high or a divergence, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But we saw the market move lower, and it's further consolidating near Friday's lows, and you're forming a bullish divergences on the intraday chart. So we'll be watching to see if we attempt to rebound back up. I'll show you the intraday charts and the daily chart. The Dow was flat, down 13 points. If the Dow rallies back up, I'm watching Dow Theory because we're seeing the transports rise, and the Dow is getting a doji. I'll show it to you. We could see a Dow Theory reversal signal if the Dow rallies back up against a lower high, which I think it will. S&P down 19.5 points, down almost 0.5%. NASDAQ down about 1% 157 points, rounding up 1.16%. Russell was up 0.31%. The VIX was up. VIX was up 5.65%. And the MACD is turning up here, so we'll be watching. If we do get a rebound, likely going to be short-lived, and again, I'll show you.
Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. Target filled.
Well, here we go. Here we go, folks. The open in 1 minute. Looks like they're gonna make a stab to try to break out to the upside. Well, I don't know that for sure, but usually there's a surge at the open. Here we go.
Stop filled. Order.
Yeah, they head fake down and then they pushed it up. Now we'll see if they fail this double, triple top area.
Order filled. Target filled. Target filled. Order filled. Stop filled. Order filled. Target filled. Order filled. Target filled. Order target filled. Order stop filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order submitted. Target filled. Order filled. Target filled. Order submitted. Order canceled. Order filled. Target filled. Order filled. Order canceled. Order filled. Target filled. Order filled. Target filled.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a pretty big spinning top there. There's a little bit of a battle going on in this. If they can't double triple top up here, I'm thinking that we're going to go short, but they head fake so much. I don't know. They may bust on through and push. You never you're always second guessing yourself sometimes, you know? You just sometimes you've got to let's go. Pretty strong green candle though. Yeah, there they busted on through. Is it a head fake? Or they got the momentum to do it? Yeah, let them run it up.
Order submitted. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled.
Got in that a little bit too early. I see how they are.
Order submitted. Order filled. Order. Target filled. Order submitted. Order filled.
Got a little bit too many on. I'm going to go ahead and chase this, although I'd like to just let it run. Yeah.
Stop filled.
I had a few too many contracts on. I usually try to keep it under 20. I had 20 something, so 20 micros. Imagine. So let's see what we're doing here on the profile. Yeah, they're wanting to fill in this area here and create a larger distribution area. So they're going to bounce around in this area right here. So my thought is if you can buy here, buying this, well, they may fill this one. They've got a little bit of strength going on right here. So they may go ahead and just bounce up and down in this area for a while.
Order submitted. Order filled.
See if we can let this one run a little bit.
Stop filled.
Okay. Yeah. You see, now it's sort of in a uh, scalping mood, I guess you'd call it. Mode, scalping mood. Yeah. You're creating a channel here. It's a, what do they call it? A ramp and camp. A ramp and camp. So I'm going to short it. I'm going to, I'll chase this up and short it so that it bounces down. But it gets above this volume spot right here. They're going to work on this area.
Order filled. Target filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Order filled. Target filled. Order filled.
Okay. what
Order
I do here
submitted.
is I put an order in and then I chase it up. Try to anyway. Chase it up.
Order filled.
And I'm cost averaging.
Target filled. Order submitted.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're just buying into a rally going against you.
Order filled.
See if we can get a run on this one.
Target filled.
Might be able to make my goal on this one. Doggone it. That's what happens sometimes. Yeah.
Order filled.
Pretty fickle at that point. I was going to, $100 is better than no money. We've got kind of a, let me show you what's going on here. Got a little bit of a battle going on here. Where, oh, where? Where, oh, where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone? I'd searched the world over and thought I'd found true love. But you met another and you were gone. Okay. I'm not going to do anything with this right here. We're going to wait. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'm going to turn the recording off. I'm not even recording. Okay. That might be good. Okay. Well, I see they're pushing it back up to test the highs. Let's see if they can punch through. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna put on a trade at this moment. No. They're filling in this distribution lower volume area here. So it could be a consolidation move from this point here to this point here for a little while. If they break this trend line right here, then we may get into the meat of it and then uh, continue to build up in this area for a move higher. Hey, there's always, you know, it's going to go one of three ways: sideways, up, or down, and it's hard to figure out sometimes because they don't send out a letter of intent. It's a scalping situation right now. You can scalp either way. You know, this point here, scalp for 10 ticks up. This area here, maybe scalp down for 10 ticks. They definitely failed with the last 3 minutes. They've pushed down off that. So we may be heading down. They push back up a little bit and try to finagle it a little bit. I may short it again.
Order filled. Order filled.
No, they had faked me on that one, although it's getting weaker.
Order submitted. Order filled. Target filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Order filled. Order submitted. Target filled. Order filled.
Well, they had faked me on that one, guys. Now I'm having to adjust. I still think we're gonna. Well, actually, I don't. I think that they're trying to push up. I'll try to get out to break even on this one.
Order filled. Target filled.
We fail here, or we go ahead and push up higher. Right now, it looks like they're going to try to push up higher. Those dirty talk.
Order target filled. Order filled. Target filled. Target filled. Order
I'm going to
filled.
close it. I escaped out of that one. Now watch it run down, and I miss out on a big value, but that's okay because your equity preservation is more important than the possibility. So I pretty much reached my goals too. So my goals, uh, well, I've got 700 bucks on that one. 700 on that one and 700 on that one. So I've reached my goal of 1,000 bucks a day plus. So, now I'm going to be a little more conservative. They're not giving us a definite push, you know. They keep trying to test up into these areas here. So I'm going to watch it for a while. I expect them to kind of weasel their way up a little bit higher before they'd make a big drop. I'll stop the recording here.
you what I'm looking at. But the VIX is back above 14 to 14.21. Now, remember I told you we have rebalancing taking place. It has to take place here. Starting to see some distribution. Tesla was down 6%, over 6% today. NVIDIA was down 3.73% today. Meta down over 3.5% today. So we're starting to see some distribution. Over here, AMD was down 2.27% today. So NVIDIA dropping nearly dropping almost 4%, 3.74%, dropping almost $16. NVIDIA, which again has been leading the charge higher, along with Microsoft and AMD and a few other names. Again, you've got the Magnificent Seven there on the S&P, where again, 7 stocks on the S&P are moving, are making up nearly 30% of the market cap that's moving it. NVIDIA getting a bearish reversal of conditions. You see the push here down. You see the little red arrow. That means we're pushing below the cloud. So you have a red cloud now by the close here, and you have a red bar as the negative divergence I've been talking about is now playing out on NVIDIA. And again, eventually we're going to come back and trace this and come back towards this gap fill area, and then again the 50-period moving average, maybe the 200-period moving average. But again, NVIDIA and the AI stocks have been the leadership. Now we have distribution going on with negative divergences having completed on NVIDIA and others. Microsoft got a bearish reversal of conditions today. Again, the negative divergence has played out here on Microsoft. Momentum now going negative, bearish reversal of conditions. It's taken out the 20-period moving average, taking out the green dots of support today. So Microsoft down nearly 2%, down about almost $6.50. Slide continues on AMD, which again already had the negative divergence and already had the bearish reversal of conditions, and that has now played out, and the swing trend line has already turned to red with the bearish reversal of conditions and remains that way, turning from green to red. So again, you're seeing the red bars, the red cloud, and the swing trend line has turned back to red.
Order
Negative
submitted.
momentum. So again, the leadership is making a U-turn. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the NASDAQ, S&P 500. Tesla gets a bearish reversal of conditions today. Tesla's hitting a major trend line of resistance, but it got a 6% drop today, dropping $15.55 as a bearish reversal of conditions. Red bar, you see the little red arrow taking out the green dots of support, getting the red dots above it. Momentum's now turning negative. So again, it's going to put further pressure on NASDAQ. Again, NASDAQ rallies back up and gets a lower high or possibly a divergence. It's becoming less and less likely that it's going to get a divergence now because the leadership is now peaked. The tech stocks and the semiconductors and the AI stocks and all the rest of it,
submitted.
these stocks are peaking and turning, so it's going to put pressure on NASDAQ. It's going to be harder for it to make higher highs, although it could still do that. I do expect that we're going to try to attempt to bounce at some point. Whether that sets up a lower high or a higher high, as we talked about over the weekend, remains to be seen. But a good shot that we peaked with options expiration just over a week ago, as we've talked about over the weekend. Tesla dropping 6% and, again, getting a bearish reversal of conditions as well. The XLK got one on Friday, last Friday, and again, the negative diversions present on the XLK, the technology ETF. Now today, taking out the 20-period moving average, 0.75%. So we're seeing distribution taking place in the tech sector. And that has now given us a bearish reversal of conditions on the NASDAQ. I talked about over the weekend, again, either we get an immediate bearish reversal of conditions before getting some kind of bounce back up, or we get a bounce before and bounce off the green dots of support. Well, we took out green dots of support today on NASDAQ, and we took out the lower boundary of the cloud. We had, again, negative divergences setting up on all kinds of indicators that we've talked about. With our peak from last Friday, we had a dark cloud cover. That candlestick was confirmed. A confirmation and a follow-through. I've talked about that. But we hit this level of support and the green dots of support, this area right here, here on Thursday and Friday. We got a candle of indecision. The doji, again, was either a continuation or reversal. Now, we're still forming bullish divergences on the intraday chart, so at some point we could see a rebound back up. But now we need to be watching the Fibonacci's. And again, I have them drawn from the low. We still may go lower. At some point, we could get a rebound. Now we have the bearish reversal of conditions. As long as that remains bearish, the bears are back in control. Turns back to bullish, then again, you're going to either get a divergence or maybe get a confirmation of a lower high. So let me just bring it up close here. Now, the bars turn back to red. We took out the lower boundary of the cloud, so you get the red arrow there, and you took out the green dots of support right here that were going sideways, and so you get a red dot of resistance now coming in right here near our 78.6 Fibonacci at 15,159, or 61,000 currently right around the 15,058 area. And again, we still may go lower, so these Fibonacci's could change, but you're now making the transition from a bullish reversal of conditions to a bearish reversal of conditions to momentum going negative. So again, does it go lower and then get some kind of rebound back up, and then that's it, you know? Or do we get an immediate rebound? If we get an immediate rebound, then again, we'll be watching the red dots of resistance and the Fibonacci's and the gap fills. And then do we get a lower high or do we get a divergence? And again, it's becoming more and more likely that NASDAQ peaked, as we talked about with the options expiration with our dark cloud cover, because you've got more and more of the leadership now turning with negative divergences and now getting bearish reversal of conditions of their own. Again, is the red bar, the cloud turning red. It's not red yet because they just broke through it, so tomorrow it'll start showing up red and then taking out the green dots of support. NASDAQ gets a bearish reversal of conditions, and I talked about that possibility over the weekend. Broke the green dots of support if we took out this level or if we tried to bounce off it. NASDAQ did not make a lower low on Friday, but it did today.
Target
S&P got a lower low on Friday and another lower low today. NASDAQ got that higher low, so I told you candle of indecision could attempt to rebound. We can still attempt to rebound, but again, you might go lower. But we talked about coming down to the 20-period moving average. If we broke this level right here, if we try to bounce off the 20, or if we continue to try to go lower before we get any kind of meaningful bounce. But we are seeing distribution taking place, are forming bullish divergences on the intraday chart. So we'll see if that gives us some bounce back. We're forming multiple points of divergence, and all it's done is given us intraday rallies. So at some point, do we get a bigger one? You have multiple point divergences, but a bearish reversal of conditions on the NASDAQ. And with the bearish reversal conditions, we continue to get red awesome oscillator bars. And again, if it starts, eventually turning, say we go lower and then try to get some kind of bounce, or if we try to get an immediate bounce, do we still see red bars and then see it turn back up and try to form confirmation of a lower high or a divergence? Because again, we move to a new peak here, so we're going to likely get some kind of rally back up at some point. But again, with taking out the lower boundary of the cloud, the momentum cloud, the door is open now to where we could still go lower. So we'll be watching. Do we attempt? And oftentimes, as I've talked about over the weekend, oftentimes you'll get a bearish reversal of conditions and then attempt to rebound, or maybe go a little bit lower and attempt to rebound, or other times we try to bounce off the green dots of support in the lower boundary of the cloud. Here we broke them, so now we'll be watching, do we attempt to rebound? And again, the best moves don't. But given that there is a possible divergence or confirmation of a lower high that can form here and on the intraday charts, we very well could see that play out. But again, you could go lower. Listen, you could go lower before you get any kind of meaningful bounce like we did in August. We had to go a lot lower before we got any kind of rebound back up. I think that we're going to get a rebound back up, but again, now you're getting the bearish reversal of conditions. So we'll be looking. Do we get a lower high with the next move, or do we get a divergence? The divergence is getting tougher to make, and it's becoming more and more likely we have a peak because of the leadership having the divergences and having turned down. But again, it's still possible that NASDAQ could get a divergence and go higher. But again, we'll be watching. But the bearish reversal conditions now puts the sellers back in control, and we are seeing distribution. NASDAQ 100 daily chart. Same thing. We talked about this over the week. Whoops, sorry about that. I just bumped wrong button. Will we get a bearish reversal of conditions? I talked about this over the weekend. Immediately before getting any kind of bounce back up, and then is it just going to be a feeble bounce or a bigger bounce, or did we try to bounce off our green dots of support here? And again, the green dots on the S&P today. We broke the lower boundary of the cloud. We got a bearish reversal of conditions today. We're remaining below the 10-period moving average. That's that red line right there. You continue to have red oscillator bars, and you could still get them and go lower. We're not quite at the 20-period. The NASDAQ is. S&P not quite there. But I talked about gravitating back down towards the 20-period. If our candlesticks of indecision on Friday were continuation patterns, were they reversal patterns, we try to get a bounce. But again, at some point, we'll get a bounce. But right now, you're getting the bearish reversal of conditions. So again, signals that marked extremes last Thursday and Friday. Those signals played out to give us a bearish reversal of conditions. And the extremes occurred with these two bars right here. Was the extreme bar with the rally on S&P, and then the reversal bar that we had there on Friday with those dark cloud cover patterns. And again, they have been confirmed. So again, same thing with NASDAQ here, though we could still possibly get a divergence, but it is possible that we only get a confirmation of a lower high here in the next few days. And again, we may go lower before we get any kind of bounce, or even gravitate towards the 50 and get a bounce, or again try to bounce here above the 20 or at the 20-period moving average. So we'll be watching. You do have some bullish divergences that are forming on the intraday charts. So again, I'll be watching the oscillators. Do we get divergences that form here, or do we get, see the red happen and then it turn right back to green and try to take out the highs, or do we get lower highs and go back and fill the gaps and get a Fibonacci retracement? So that's what I'm going to be watching here on the daily chart. Now, if I bring up the S&P up close here, again, you can see we're still above that 20-period moving average, but we got the red going on, the red arrow, the red bar, and again, the cloud is now going to turn to red because we closed below the lower boundary right there and taking out the green dots of support. So now you have the red dots of resistance. So, either we're going to go back up at some point, and maybe we go a whole lot lower before we get a rebound. That's what happened in August. But at some point, you're either going to try to establish a lower high or a higher high. But bearish signals being triggered today with the bearish reversal of conditions taking place. I'll be watching to see if the swing trend line right there turns from green to red tomorrow. Pretty good chance that that's going to happen next. Usually it does right after a bearish reversal of conditions. And again, the momentum is now turning negative. So like I said, we could just go a whole lot lower if we have a continuation doji and spinning top, I should say, from Friday there. Could go a whole lot lower before we get any kind of bounce, but still possible. There are some bullish divergences on the intraday charts. The problem with that is that intraday charts, the divergences can just give you bounces and a series of lower highs and a larger decline. So again, eventually, multiple point divergences lead to reversals in the intraday timeframes. But again, we'll be watching to see how this unfolds. But a bearish reversal of conditions on the S&P here, on the NASDAQ. We already had it with the Dow there on Friday. Now we're seeing the swing trend line turn bearish. I think the Dow is going to attempt a rally. We get today, the Dow flat. The Dow got a doji. If we rally back up on the Dow and the transports goes to higher levels above this peak over here, then again, you're going to have a major sell signal. If we attempt to rally right here, right now, Dow's hitting that 20-period, S&P's just above it, NASDAQ's just right under it. Well, like the Dow. Here's the Dow. Look at the transports. The transports were up today. That is suggesting that we're going to see some kind of rebound. The Dow got a doji, a candle of indecision. It was flat. NASDAQ was down. You're starting to see a distribution with technology and with the S&P, but the Dow was flat. It's already had some selling pressure. The transports were up 1.3 9%, up 203.5 points. And again, is it going to come up and move above this high up here, which I think it's going to, and I think you're going to see a Dow theory reversal signal being triggered. So you got the transports up nearly 1.5%, 1.39%. You got the Dow down slightly and getting a doji. If the Dow attempts a rally back up, okay, if we attempt to see these divergences play out on the S&P intraday charts, and we see the Dow attempt to rally back up, transports could come up higher above this level, above this high, and yet the Dow could get a lower high. And again, these are the signals that have marked turns over and over again. And if we get one here in the most recent price action, again, if we do try to rally back up and we do set up a lower high, maybe on the Dow and the S&P, you get those diversions with the transports. It's going to be a huge warning sign that we're about to get a big dump. So again, I'll be watching to see if we do attempt to get a rally with today's candle of indecision there with the Dow. But transport's up, so that's kind of a huge red flag that maybe we're going to see a rebound back up, and maybe those divergences try to play out on the S&P 500 and NASDAQ intraday charts and give us a rebound
Stop
back up.
filled.
Now, another thing, if we look at Signal X, it marked a peak when we reached extremes on options expiration just over a week ago. Okay, and it marked an extreme. I talked about it at the time. As we've seen other tops, it's marked extremes at. Now, either those extremes have marked the top, or it has formed, and it's been followed by a lower high, or it has been followed by a divergence and a higher high. And I've marked them all since the November peak of 2021. I've marked lower highs and the divergences with these black arrows that have taken place after we've reached extremes or near extremes here in March. But after we've reached extremes, what happened?
Target
And every
filled.
time you've had a lower high or a divergence. Now, does it have to? I mean, we could just go a whole lot lower. Look at it in August. You know, we went lower before we got any kind of meaningful bounce. And I think I messed up right here, but again, we had an immediate bounce right here after the March peak, and then you had another one right there. So again, do we go, lower before we get any kind of bounce? But if you just look at this chart, again, here in November, we reached an extreme, then we formed the divergence. And then here we reached the extreme, we formed the top, kind of two equal peaks there, but then we sold off, and we came back, we got a divergence. A confirmation of a lower high. Here, again, we reached an extreme, and we had an attempted immediate rebound that didn't new highs, and then we went a whole lot lower and attempted another one with that move right there, as I mentioned. Again, in August, you had a bigger sell-off, and then an attempted rebound here. The rebounds sometimes give you lower highs or higher highs with divergences, but over here we had an extreme reading in December. We came down and we went up and we formed the divergence, and we went about a half a point above the previous peak and got a double top, reaching extreme in February here, and again started to sell off, got a rebound back up, got a lower high a couple of times. So I attempted these rebounds, one with Powell and then one with the sales data. We attempted a rebound there, but again, it formed a confirmation of a lower high. We got a bigger sell. So here we are. We've hit extremes where the other tops have formed. So now it's the waiting game. Do we see some type of attempted rebound to get a lower high, form a divergence? But it's likely going to be that we're going to see this turn back up, or maybe we end up going lower. Maybe we go towards the center line like we did at some of these other points, right here, or right here, or right here in December, where we went down to these center points, the center line here, before we got any kind of attempted rebound. So I don't know if we just keep going with the bearish reversal conditions to the downside before we get any kind of meaningful